At the KSMO studios, we have 8:33 right now, KSMO. It's a cool morning in Dan County. It's sliding in safely was Hospital Administrator Kasey Lucas. Safe.
Yes.
Yeah, no doubt. And here Kasey is casual today. Of course, I mean, he has to go down and there are some vaccinations being given at the Dan County Firehouse today and again next Thursday, by golly, don't forget that.
Yeah.
And, you've got some news for people about those vaccinations, do you?
I do, and I want to say we've got plenty of vaccines. If you qualify for Phase 1B, Tier 2, which is those 18 to 64 that are at high risk, considered high risk, and then those over 65 qualify. If you're in that group, please come by the firehouse. And you haven't been vaccinated, please come by the firehouse. Call the health center, the Dan County Health Center. They can schedule you today. You can also get scheduled for next week, and then. Again, you can from 11 to 3 today. You can come in.
One.
Oh, I'm sorry.
One.
1 to. Thank you,
because
I would have got.
you got yelled at.
I would have got it. So 1 to 3.
1 to 3.
You can come in and no appointment necessary. Just come on in and get your vaccine.
As long as you still have vaccine available.
Yes.
So if you get a rush,
Yes.
then
Yes.
now you have approximately 40 doses left that have not been accounted for.
We have 80 scheduled today.
Oh, just 80?
Just 80.
Oh, wow.
And we have 220
Oh,
to
you
give.
have 140.
Yeah.
Whoa, wow.
Yes. Yes.
I thought you said 180.
Well, and I'm going to say that 80 may have changed. That was yesterday evening when we talked about that.
But you have a lot of doses available.
Yes, we do have.
Okay.
Yeah. Doses
So
available.
it's worth somebody's gamble to get on down there. If you need to be vaccinated and you fall within that Phase 1A, so if you're still a healthcare worker or anything of that nature, you can get it too. Or
Sure.
residential
Yes.
care worker
Yes.
or those people. Emergency responders, you can always get that. That's Phase 1A. And then, of course, Phase 1B then includes others like the over 65 and those who are immunocompromised.
Yes.
I saw that word for the first time. Immuno. I don't really know what that means, but immunocompromised. I thought, okay, here we go. We're going to start some new vocabulary. But if you are that, and basically that can be a lot of different things. So if you're not too concerned with getting COVID, I can't tell you I wouldn't still get the vaccine, because if you're immunocompromised, it could really hit you hard. That's something you don't want to have happen. So if you've got issues, get in touch with your doctor if you're not sure, or call the doctor's office or call their office and then find out and say, would I qualify for that? And if you do that, then and they say, yeah, get your butt over there, then go do it.
Yeah.
Probably a good idea. But anyway, so today from 1 to 3, stop on by Denton County Fire Station right there, number 2 South Main Street. And if you qualify in any of the Phase 1A or Phase 1B, Tiers 1 and 2, you are eligible to get your vaccination, and you don't even have to make an appointment. Just come on by. If you do want to schedule your appointment for next Thursday, though, you do need to do that. You just can't, as of right now, you just can't show up for that one.
That is correct.
Yeah, so 729-3106, the number to call, and get that done. All right.
Yes. And while we're talking about the vaccine, I guess we could talk about a little bit about last week's mass vaccination.
It was cold.
It was cold. It was very
really
cold. It was very cold.
But it went over pretty well.
Went well. Very, very well. Gave 1,800 of 2,000 shots that we had. So went well. Even the day before that, we had our firehouse and gave 180 of 200, so about the same. Again, left with 220, and that's where we are today. And so we will make those available. Again, that, I do want to say all that were involved, from the facility itself. Definitely want to thank
Denton County Health Center.
Yeah, Benny
staff.
Maxwell, and the
whole
commons. Clearing, getting the. I know there was a lot of people involved getting the parking lot cleared.
Right.
Really, that facility. I mean, it really helped to have that facility and have the road, and it was perfect for that. You had log lines that we would normally have. Was perfect for that, and when we again, it was a good. Again, all that participated in it as well. Not only SMDH staff that I'm very proud of, but also the Denton County Health Center. As well as
National Guard,
the
right.
National Guard, they did a phenomenal job. I mean, to have them come in and set up, that was half the battle right there, just setting up for this thing, and all the supplies they brought with them. It was a great event. So
bit of a challenge staying warm, but that.
Yeah, and we had enough. You learn. Even in a 2-day period, you learn how to make things better. I mean, it's improvement hour by hour. We're improving how we're bringing people in, and the National Guard brought a lot of those suggestions too. But as we were doing it, we saw, if every station we had 2 people giving the vaccination instead of just 1, man, we could really push those people through. So. And I will say again, all those involved were very, very willing and really wanted to be out there and doing and be out most of the day. I mean, they wanted to push people through. They wanted to give a great service to these people. And I think some of the reactions that we had from those receiving the vaccination, I mean, it was just. It was touching.
The fact that, and reminding everybody that even with the 1,800 that went through, they got to come back. They got to get a second dose yet. So this is all going to be repeated next on the 11th and 12th, and they're going to do it again. So, so if you have any questions about the vaccinations, please contact Denton County Health Center, 729-3106. Again, I want to remind you, people, we'll do it again here before we get done, and we'll remind people throughout the day this morning, if you do qualify to get vaccinated and you haven't had a chance, maybe the snow has prohibited you from getting out, maybe even last week's cold prohibited you from getting out. Some people can't handle that cold, Kasey. They just literally can't get out. I know it's still cold today, but nothing like what it was last Thursday and Friday. Nowhere near.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyhow, if you can get out, if you can get to the fire station here locally between 1 and 3 today, you don't even need to make an appointment. You can just show up, but you have to qualify for the Tier 1 and 2 of Phase 1A and Phase 1B. You can go online and check out what that is, or just call the health center and find out if you do qualify and tell them what your age is or what your occupation is or what you do, and they'll let you know.
Yes.
All right, very good. Get that vaccine, and then you'll come back again. It's basically 30 days, isn't it?
It's a 28-day. We're doing just a 4-week schedule. So if you come today, it'll be 4 weeks from today, and you're coming back.
Come back and get your second dose.
Yep.
Okay. And if you don't get your second dose, you're protected, but you're not fully protected.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to get that second. That's the booster, is what they call
Yes.
the booster.
Like a booster.
Yeah. We can make something out of that, couldn't we? Come get your booster. Okay. All right. Anyway, very good. So we want to thank Kasey for coming by today. We know that the vaccinations are neat, and they like to get a response and see how people are doing, and very good. And there's some changes being done at the hospital because of COVID-19. A few things have changed because it's gotten better. We're going to talk about those in a little bit. We're not going to jump out of order and messed you up last time. We won't do it. All right. Well, first off, I want to thank the entire staff at SMDH and everything for trying to keep these meetings going. This is not easy. The Zoom meetings are not exactly the best meetings in the world to go to. Sometimes you're challenged a little bit audio-wise, for the most part, but you have to try and get board members to respond.
Yes.
You have to know that they're there. And,
yes.
But I think everybody's done the best they could with the situation is. But I am going to step out and say the March meeting, as of right now, will be attended in person.
Yes.
As of right now.
Yes, as of right now. And we can't wait. They can't wait to get back in person. I can't wait to get back in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody out there has went to or participated in a Zoom meeting, the participation, it's just not the same. When you're in person, there's just more participation and there's more everything. So I mean, it just.
Well, you can read people's. Yeah. You can see when people are confused.
I can see if somebody's got a question, and you can address those things. And today that doesn't necessarily. I mean, you can't always see that. Yes, we have a picture of everybody,
right?
And usually we're focusing on the presentation itself. So it just the way things are set up. Again, you wish you could get back and like you said, March meeting, we're hopefully going to get back, and we'll just continue to watch the activity for Dent County and for our service area.
Hard to believe it's been a year.
Yes, it is.
A year that we've been doing this. However, I wasn't able to ask this question because they mute the media. I don't know why. Media microphone should always be on. But I'm assuming that if somebody still doesn't feel very comfortable, they could still Zoom in at the next meeting. You will still have that option available.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody really wanted to do it, you can still do it.
I think this has changed a lot for a lot of different organizations, just industries in general. Just the having the availability of this. It's too beneficial to say, well, and yes, like we said, it's better if you can get everybody in person, but when that person, if you don't have a quorum, yet you could have a quorum,
right? If
you have a Zoom, if you have that outlet to Zoom,
and this,
you could have the meeting.
And as you're saying, this type of meeting, which was this is in the bylaws now. This was all changed years ago, but so that a quorum could be made just in case you had the situation. Because what if somebody had the flu and they don't want to come in? They're sick, but they could attend the meeting by Zoom, and you'd have enough to constitute a quorum.
Yes.
Otherwise, you got to reschedule a meeting, and hopefully you can get everybody there, and that makes things a little bit more difficult. So it has changed things. I know the city has done this. County has really they haven't really done anything with the Zoom as far as that is concerned, but I'm sure if things would have gotten any worse, that could have been done as well. So very good. But anyway, so that's the good news. The bad news is that we still aren't making any money.
No.
Now, we may be able to recover some of these losses. However, we have to wait on the PPP, loan forgiveness, and maybe some money coming back in from a 340B drug program and some other things. So some of this could be recouped. But Kasey, I want people to get alarmed when they hear these kind of numbers, the losses. The hospital has money available that they can turn to.
Yes.
But when you hear about a $900,000 loss for the month, that's pretty steep.
It is. And it is, and I'll say this, there's not one month that when you start looking at those type of losses that, really operations to change operations enough. And I'm saying operating expenses, to change operating expenses enough to make that difference. There's not enough we can do in any particular month to save $909,000. I mean, it is a fact. It is a product of higher expenses for some things.
Yeah.
Okay, because of COVID.
Right.
And then we have, and some are not COVID related, so we just do have some fluctuation in expenses. But I do think that you have that fluctuation, added expense for COVID, volume at its lowest for COVID, and yeah, there are, but like you said, there are dollars there that can help us through, and we just, we're going to have to take advantage of that.
So one of the questions that, since we were muted, I could not ask, but one of the questions that was coming to me now, we've been through this a year.
Yes.
That's what I want. Now, the operating statement, obviously, this is for January. We're talking about in February. So actually 1 year would have been in March. So we'd actually been kind of still not really affected, but the last true full month we had no COVID was last February.
Yes.
So that there was no effect of the COVID because middle of March is when they start shutting everything down.
Yes.
All right. So when we look at that, now my question would have been, all right, so it took us a year to get to this stage. Well, how long do we anticipate it's going to take us to get out of this stage? Because you know as well as I do, even after we get maybe even back to a semblance of normal, people are still going to probably be hesitant.
Yes.
About still going to the hospital, or maybe even making doctor's appointments or getting outpatient care. Now, I know that the hospital is going to have their health fair, which was not brought up at the meeting. Is another thing. That's why they should never meet the media. Going to be March 1st to the 15th. Again, you're going to be making that appointment at the hospital. But these services that the hospital would do at a different location, so that it doesn't really get in the way of the normal operations of the hospital.
Sure.
We're now going to have to be held at the hospital simply because we're not over this thing yet.
Yes.
So, but as we progress through and the vaccinations get out, and we see virtually the cases dropping exponentially down, which is great, which is fantastic.
Sure. Yep.
How long will it take people to get back to that norm if they feel comfortable, if they have to go to the hospital or if they have to go to see their doctor? I think, right now, and it's just an observation, you're starting to see people maybe gain a little bit more confidence because of the vaccine. But like you were mentioning earlier, Johnson & Johnson's going to be, their vaccine is going to be up for approval next Friday.
Yes.
They're going to be hearing it.
Yes.
So if that would get in, and maybe mass vaccinations will be for everybody.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I said maybe.
And yes, exactly. It's maybe, because the availability of those. I've read just a few things that say there will not be, that they won't have the inventory.
Well, not yet. No.
Yeah. So I mean, it will. I don't know. Early on, we were hearing spring. We were hearing summer before those vaccinations got to everyone.
Right.
Okay. So, we're still saying the vaccinations now. The rates coming down. I still think even locally, our rates are lower than nationally where rates are, and so for us, that's a great thing for Dent County and for our surrounding area that we have seen such a decline in that, but I think people are still going to be leery, and I think it's going to be a while before we get back to that. And this weather like this, I mean,
You're not going anywhere.
Compounded not only COVID, but compounded this week from this weather.
Sure.
I mean, we had 10 ER visits yesterday. I mean, that's normally 25 to 28 ER visits, and we had 10. So, I mean, that volume, and I know people are putting off
getting things done.
Yeah. I mean, but again, next week we should be back to a COVID normal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then, 18 to 20 a day. And then, and that's when you talk about that. We've noticed, because the testing for COVID has come down.
Right.
It's kind of starting to
wind down.
That our registrations, outpatient registrations, are then now falling as well. So, again, you see those. We see all, as we start to look at the statistical summary of everything that we do, inpatients, average last year 120, and that was with COVID. You know, that's not year to date. That's an average for admissions, 120. We are average this year of 94. So you start to look at those numbers, and
just look at January 20 and look at January 21.
yeah,
I mean, that's almost a 60 inpatient admission turnaround. 60.
yeah,
When you only had 94 this January, 60, that's 2/3 of that number of 94. You could have multiplied that out.
yeah.
So that's a lot. That's
is.
a lot. That's
It
a
is.
lot of different things
And-
going on there.
And we're starting the budgeting process.
Oh,
I
I
mean,
know.
it is a
It's
terrible thing to start looking
I
at.
don't envy the people on the finance committee trying to figure this out. Because, well, we've had that, a few years back, we had that one year that things just extrapolated out of sight.
Yes.
It was a deviation from the norm, true norm. You
Yes.
expect a little rise, but
Yes.
you don't expect a jump,
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
You don't expect a GameStop jump, shoot right up there, like that did that one year. However, the issue is that this is all unknown territory, and you don't even know what to expect going forward. And that's why my question would have been, where do we see, or has there been discussion with MHA or any of those people about, all right, if we can get these things into place, vaccinations, et cetera, that hopefully by end of 2021 we might be in a semblance of back to near normal.
Calendar 2021. I mean, again, we're
Right,
talking.
calendar.
Yeah.
Not fiscal year
Yeah.
2021. That won't happen.
Yeah. No, but yeah, calendar things may be back. If we say, well, once everybody's vaccinated, and then there's a 6-month build or a ramp up period for hopefully things to get back to the norm. And I think it's all dependent on the rates and where the rates go today.
Sure.
And it would just have to.
Right. And we know there's not to say there's not going to be COVID still around. It
Sure.
will still be around.
Sure.
We still have measles, we still have mumps, we still have chicken pox.
And,
So,
and to say that the decline, I mean, you can't say the decline that we've seen over the last 30 days or 21 days or whatever you want to, that decline that we've seen, you can't say that's because of vaccinations.
I'm saying
That's
it's
not-
because of doggone cold weather.
Well,
People aren't going anywhere.
Right. or it's just the results of our results of social distancing and mask wearing and hand hygiene and all of those things that it's now maybe taking effect, or we're seeing results of that. You can't, I don't know. You can't really say, but I don't think it's vaccinations.
Well,
And-
I think a lot of it has to do with vaccinations, because in the larger cities where they have received more vaccinations, obviously we have in Dane County, you're seeing this massive drop. And I don't want to go take a COVID test if I don't have to, but if I got sick, I think if you try to go to a hospital or anything, they're going to give you one.
Sure. Oh yeah,
So no matter what.
that's normal at this point.
Yeah.
That's
So
normal protocol.
So the chances of you, if you're already sick, going in and having COVID, might be a lot better than if you just went and got a test and you're feeling fine. That negativity, as far as the positivity rate, would be a lot lower if you had a whole bunch of people go and test negative. But the chances of that happening now, as soon as somebody gets a little bit ill right now, you get tested for COVID, well, you got a better chance. If you're getting tested, only the people getting ill are getting tested. You got a better chance of a higher number.
Well, and is it part of the seasonal COVID? I've heard
We don't
many
know.
things,
Yeah,
but
we don't know.
you're I don't know. Vaccines, seasonal, ups and downs of it.
And then the new strains as they come through, and that's going to change things too.
Sure.
So let's get off COVID
Okay.
for a while. Let's talk about some numbers. And we did $909,000 loss. And we already talked about the inpatient admissions way down. Not something we want to see, but that is just the cold hard facts about it. Inpatient census days, though, the people who did have to go to hospital, Kasey, were pretty sick.
Yes.
So the inpatient census days didn't suffer terribly with that
No.
kind of reduction, because we had 152 back in January 20. You had 371 days. You had 94 with 326 days. That tells you some people are sick.
Yes. Yeah.
So your acute care patients per day, 10.5, and the average length of stay was 2.98, basically 3 days for that
Yes.
length of stay.
Yes.
And then the registrations, as you mentioned, when you see some things start to reduce, you see other things start to reduce, and then when they start to reduce, so do those tests, so do those procedures. However, I will say the rehabs have stayed fairly good, and I know rehabs were down a little bit in January because
Yeah.
of the weather. There were some
Yes.
times they literally could not get there, but home health visits were actually in pretty good shape.
Yes. Yeah. No, there again, it depends on the area. It depends on what they do. But we have been very fortunate to keep our rehab treatments going. And like you said, yes, maybe for the month they were down for January, but and we will see a little bit gone from February because of this week.
Sure,
So
yeah.
we'll see a dip there as well. But there is some areas that, again, surgeries, I mean, those have stayed consistent.
Since you started doing them
since
again.
Since we got back.
Yeah.
And so, I think we'll see some of those areas. And again, I hope that the confidence and the lower cases of COVID, people getting out, will bring that volume around.
Very
So,
good. Yep. That's what we want to see. We want that volume to climb back up. So as we take a look here, the emergency room visits, as you mentioned, COVID normal, not even really there.
No.
We usually have over 600, but
Yes.
about 532. But again, we had a cold spell and snow and a little bit of ice, mostly ice.
Yes.
You couldn't get around anyway. Pretty amazing to me, though, when we see the emergency department, when we have, the ambulance runs at 190 and 139 patients were transported, we're still sitting, that actually is less than normal. I mean, I'm more than normal transported, 51 dry runs. That's a little bit less than normal. We've been at about 34 or 35%.
Yes.
That's almost closer to 27%,
Yes.
which is good.
Yes.
Saves money because they have to go out there anyway, whether
Yeah.
somebody uses them or not. But the one thing I liked about here is that nobody expired in our emergency department.
Yes.
And fewer people, based upon the number of people that have come through, are leaving against medical advice,
Yes.
percentage-wise.
Yes. Percentage-wise.
Yeah. Same number as we had back in January 20, but back then we had 745 EDs
Yes. Yep.
versus 532. So, percentage-wise, it's not, you don't really want that to go up like that, but people will because, well, I can't
Yeah.
afford to stay
Yeah.
in the hospital. I can't
Yeah.
do that. Just can't do it. So they'll leave. Not always a good idea.
No.
That was a good idea. All right, very good. As we mentioned in the operating statement, when you look at that, obviously the inpatient revenue's down, the outpatient revenue's down, the emergency department revenue's down. Admissions out of that were, basically 66 people of your 91. That's 2/3. So come right out of the ED.
Yeah.
When you look at that, Kasey, and you see this total patient revenue down over basically $1 million from last year.
Yeah.
That's where you can see 909,000, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hurts.
It does. It is not.
However, it was nice to get tax money in January. That did help.
It did. It did.
But again, tax money is only
It's
used
set
for
aside
for
for-
those fixed expenses, capital expenses, et cetera, that the hospital is not used for payroll, not used for operating expenses. I always want to remind people about that. Now, the nice thing that Doug was able to talk a little bit about, though, was they have submitted additional information to the SBA for getting that loan forgiveness of
Yes.
the PPP. It's about $2.3 million. Did I hear that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, so hopefully hearing something back soon.
Yes. Yes.
Hopefully. That would be...
I don't know. I think they give you a 6-week time period, and it's been 3 weeks or so since we submitted. So, we hope that by next board meeting we've heard and we've
Sure,
got that
that's-
word back. So, yeah.
This was actually reported at the last board meeting, and then when they sent back needing additional information,
Yes.
that's been resent. So very good. Let's hope that works out. All right. So one of the things that Doug did point out, and there's something that not a lot of businesses in Denton County have, is that effective on minimum wage that happens. If you have over $500,000 in income, revenues, then you're affected by the state increase in minimum wage that was voted on by people, was it 5 years ago?
Yes.
I still say it's totally illegal. But anyway, who cares? Nobody cares what I say. But the state minimum wage went up a little bit, not extraordinarily a lot, but it affects enough people at the hospital that's going to be, what, $55,000
Yes.
additional for the year?
For the year. For the year.
$55,000. That's
And, it's one of those things where it doesn't just affect those people that are below the minimum. It affects those people that, all the way up. And how do you, an increase like that, obviously, it's got to be feathered in a way that makes it makes sense to all of those involved, all those employees who are affected and all those employees who are not affected by it. Directly, I should say.
Yeah.
You may have somebody, if our minimum wage at the hospital is $11, you may have somebody that make $11.05 and have been there for a year, and now that jumps, that minimum's jumping to 11. There's got to be some correction, some, I would say, market adjustment that has to be made for those individuals,
Right.
and that's what we do.
You basically have to keep them in the same position above the newbies, or
Yes.
if somebody's been there 10 years and there surely shouldn't be a minimum wage, but if they're on an hourly basis, that adjustment has to be made in there as well,
Yes.
because these other people are all getting raises, and if you stay the same, soon they're going to pass you by. So there are always
exactly
those changes in there. All right. We also, in looking at some of the numbers and the operating expenses, which again, the supplies for the drug costs, the pharmaceutical costs there again. Understand we changed pharmaceutical companies, wholesale pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
So some of our 340B money hasn't been given back to us yet.
Yes. And that it's just a process of when that switch happened. Our buying group that we use switched from using a certain
Company A to company B,
wholesaler A to B, and so as we start to make that change to B, there's so many, depending on timing, and again, it was a very quick turnover that happened. There's just timing that takes to get all of the paperwork filled out, all of the right accounts filled out, all the right accounts created, and verified, and it's paperwork.
Oh,
That's
I'll
what
bet
it
you
is.
there's a lot of it. Especially with something that's a government program like that.
340B, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you bet you there's going to be a paperwork. How much paperwork is it? Let's put it this way. Our supplies over last year were $100,000 more.
Yeah.
With less people there, less of everything. So $100,000 is $100,000. That's a lot of expense in one area. And I know we've got some other expenses with the COVID and gowns and gloves and stuff, but that's still a lot of money.
It is. It is a lot of money. And the speaking of the 340B, I mean, if you guys look that up, if you've seen it, if you've heard it in the news, you have to be pretty much looking for it. But what we have experienced is the conflict between the pharmaceutical companies and the HRSA or OIG that will manage the plan for the government. There's been a lot of going back and forth and really questioning the program's intent. And so when we start looking at how we and our local, I guess, apply the program at a local level, some of those pharmaceuticals have basically called out the government and said, hey, contract pharmacies, today we have contracts with all the pharmacies in town
Sure.
to supply pharmaceuticals at a lower cost to the patients, residents of our area. So what we see is those pharmaceuticals saying, I'm not going to do business with those pharmacies, okay, which in turn takes the medications that are being used for 340B, and they're not available under the 340B program to those pharmacies.
That makes sense.
And it has to do with them being a contract pharmacy with the hospital, who is the eligible provider. Okay. So that's kind of in a nutshell, that's their issues going on. And so what we're seeing is at the local level that those pharmaceuticals are not available under that 340B program anymore, which is terrible for for our community. So again, and so we are putting some things in place, and they're still so new that we're trying to help mitigate that issue as much as we can, and we will have more information coming forward as we do that. Again, we've been discussing some of that with the local pharmacies and trying to put a plan together to mitigate that. So hopefully in the next month or so, we've got something in place. But
everybody changes the rules, don't they?
They do.
Without permission, they change those rules. All right. So anyway, with the everything else, as far as most of the expenses, though, and we're pretty much in line. That supply one was a little bit high, and there was a question on dues and subscriptions that Doug had to address on why it was so high.
Yes. We had
a prepaid expense on.
Yeah.
And he said I probably should have done that
reclass
differently.
that to a prepaid. Yeah. When there are so many things that we pay one time a year, but it's for the whole year. Right. It's for the next 12 months.
You pay it, and it's good for the whole year, right?
And so
some people pay by month, but for
and by year end, we will have to reclass that because they will, or when our auditors come in and start looking at the expenses, they'll
Doug may go reclass that here before the next meeting.
Well, I mean, we may see a lower expense come out because of that reclass. Right. So,
all right, so very good. As far as the balance sheet is concerned, we still have all that money sitting there waiting that we haven't touched.
Yes.
It's still sitting there waiting. We haven't touched it yet. Current liabilities have gone up a little bit, and also your long-term liabilities have gone up because of the bonds for the construction.
Yes.
So they have gone up, and we've always mentioned about many, many years how the hospital way over the current ratio, way over virtually any ratio when it came to debt equity. You were so low, and then when you have to do something, though, you can't.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't have to go try and float bonds and everything. The huge bonds to try and cover it.
Yes.
Cover the previous bonds as well as your new ones.
Yes.
That can really become a nightmare. I don't want to go there. All right, it's very good. So as we go to the cash flow statements, even though we had a $900,000 loss, the cash flow statement only reflected $165,000 loss in cash.
Yes.
Which isn't bad.
No.
A couple of reasons. There's been more receivables come in, which has dropped that number, and got some tax levy money in, and we've got a cost report settlement.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what. Can you explain what that would be?
Sure. Cost report settlement.
Mm-hmm.
All year long, we are paid by Medicare on a last year's cost to charge ratio. Okay. So if they say, hey, your cost to charge ratio is 50%, then all year long they're paying us 50% of our charge, okay?
Okay, I get it.
For reimbursement. And then at the end of the year they go, oh, it was 50.6%. They owe us that 0.6%, which would be, in this case, $400,000, which is what we received. So that's really that cost settlement. And every year, it's up or down. And I say, as we look at operations like we see today, okay, lower revenue, higher expenses, I'm very premature in this, this thought, but my thought is they will owe us money at the end of this year as well,
Right.
and probably a larger amount because of the activity that we have seen.
Right. Because
Okay.
don't think that everything's going to turn around by June 30th.
No,
To where it's going to change that drastically from
no,
what's
no,
currently going
no.
on.
So by November of November of this year, we will turn that in, and hopefully by January of next year,
2022.
they will pay us that difference in
Okay.
what they owe us.
So, that's why I say sometimes these numbers, they jump out at you, but they may not be as bad as they really are. You have to wait. I mean, they're not good. Don't get me wrong.
No, right.
But
They're bad.
but they're bad.
They're bad.
But if you're getting $400,000 back because the government owes it to you that time period
Yes.
or more, if they didn't bring you that money back, that even hurts even worse.
Yes.
So cost settlement report, very good. All right, days cash on hand, it's still overinflated because of the additional money we
Yes.
have there. Don't even really pay much attention to that stat at this moment.
Yes.
Let's move on with the CDs. Don't really pay much attention to that. Though we do have 3 CDs coming up in March.
Yes.
I know you're just going to go overwhelming on those. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Probably not. Okay. But the aging of accounts receivable down $200,000 from the end of December, which is good news. Getting more money in. Slowly but surely, the days in net accounts receivable dropping a little bit a day, but a day is a day. And
Sure.
it's getting back from we were at 105, we got down to 98, now 97. So we're starting to make that progress and getting those things turned around.
Yes.
Part of that money was mine, so I know you did good.
Good deal. Thank you.
Yeah. I think I'm done. Unfortunately, New Year kicked in. My deductible went all the way back to
Yeah.
0. Okay, chief nursing report. Acute care staffing by patient acuity. Didn't see a lot of spikes, but we did see a lot of consistency,
Yes.
didn't we?
Yes. Yes. Very consistent. I volume. We in between 12 and 7 patients, which is not a very big. There, like you said, there was no spikes that we saw. These huge spikes. It was very consistent. Anywhere, 5 patients, 7 to 12. That difference throughout the whole month. So, still 10 patients per day, which a couple of years ago would have been normal. So, today it's less.
A little bit less.
But definitely, I mean, it could have been worse. We would really like better, but it could have been worse.
So if I was understanding right, and I wanted to clarify this, but again, they mute us.
I think you have. I don't know. We're gonna have to check that out because I don't. I think,
We're
okay.
they mute us.
And you can't.
I've tried.
Can't
To,
unmute
I've tried
yourself?
to click on it during a meeting, and it doesn't work. And
Okay.
So I don't know why it doesn't work.
We'll
but
check that out.
Anyway, but
Shouldn't be
one of
that
the
way.
things that Debbie had reported is that the hospital is going to open up 4 additional rooms in acute care. Is that right? They were kind of put aside in case of COVID.
Yes.
They had them set out
Yes.
just in case.
Yes.
That will now be opened back up
Yes.
for patients.
Yes.
And then also dialysis, which had that separation, will be going from 8 to 12 patients.
Yes. Yes. We just over this. Over the over COVID, there's a lot of guidance that the CDC gives, and again, we definitely take that seriously, especially when it comes to long-term care and dialysis. Those patients are compromised
Sure,
patients,
absolutely.
and so we have to be very careful. And again, we've seen this drop. I think this is the time where we can go back out. We feel like the positivity rates, the amount of active cases are so low that we can go back out, start to replenish those. I guess those residents we've lost over the last year or so.
Right.
And so we look at dialysis. Again, we can see up to 12 patients and maybe a couple more, just depending on the type of patient and the patient's condition.
Sure.
But we are down to 8, and we are going to get back to our normal of 12.
Right.
And so we're going to do that. We'll see some of those things over the next few weeks. Hopefully we have those vacancies filled and we have people in there. And same thing with long-term care. We had been down to 15, back up to 17. We've lost someone over the last week, back down to 16, and we plan on getting those last 2 spots, 17 and 18, filled very shortly. So,
but you have to go through this new process that you didn't have to do years ago. And you were talking about that last time we talked. You know, this whole new process, you just can't take somebody out of their home and bring them in.
Nope.
It doesn't work that way anymore.
Isolation, definitely isolation has to happen. And that is the safest thing for the current residents, for the residents that are coming in. You know, it looking, again, there's a lot of things up in the air at this point. Look at vaccinations. You look at, you know, is a resident more attractive or a better applicant for our unit if they've been vaccinated? You know, you got to start looking at those things. And so things that we're looking at and considering. So.
Okay, very good. All right, hospital auxiliary, still no meetings until we get to some semblance of order.
Yes.
And then the hospital foundation had Jason in here on Wednesday, and we talked last Wednesday.
Yes.
Talked about the golf tournament that has been scheduled for Friday, June the 4th. Mark it on your calendar. Still calling everything tentative. However, he is selling sponsorships.
Yes. Yes.
So, and teams, by the way.
Yes.
So if you've got a team you want to get into the golf tournament, or you'd like to be a sponsor of a hole or sponsor of a booth or whatever's going on, call them.
And if you had a team in last year and you say, hey, we're going to have another team, just drop us an email. Just give us a quick call in administration. Let someone know in administration. We'll mark that down and we'll save your spot. Definitely, we want to save those spots of people that have participated in years past, and so we want to make sure we get those in first. But definitely let us know. Just drop us a line, like I said. Let us know. You don't have to have the form in right now, but you know, just let us know.
Mark it down so you already got.
We'll
them.
have an idea.
You already got them on there. All right, very good. So the first phase of the sponsorship letters has gone out. If you're a business and you didn't get one, or you know, things do get lost in the mail. Amazingly,
yes.
I've got my yesterday. I got my Anthem bill that was due February 1st. Got it yesterday. I already paid it online, you know, but I got my bill said it's due February 1st.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, thank you very much. So, yeah, things do get lost or delayed in the mail. And, of course, with the sponsorship letters, if you are interested, you can just call Jason at the hospital, 729-6626. Just ask for Jason, and then we will guide you to his extension. Was it 4003?
Yes. 4003.
I'm getting scary. I remember that stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Wings and Strings, that has been tentatively scheduled for Saturday, September 11th. And, yes, they have confirmed that date with the Denton County College.
Yes.
So that is a locked-in date. Christiana has been scheduled to perform there. And, of course, it'll be Wings and Strings. You'll hear a lot more about this as we get a little bit closer, but still waiting a little bit on some of the stuff to settle down before they make other commitments and plans.
Things are moving in the right direction.
Right, absolutely. And then the Title Care USDA distance learning, with the way things have gone with the weather and schools being called off, not much happened with that.
Nope.
The month of January, and I'm probably pretty sure and confident not much happened this month either. Not by anybody's choice. It's just you can't do anything when there's nobody there.
Yes.
Or can't get there either. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the COVID-19 update. So the hospital, as of the 15th, and I got this like 40 minutes before our board meeting. Jason sent me the update. That was really nice. 40 minutes. It's going to be in a board meeting. But anyhow, nonetheless, I appreciate that very much. The visitor policy has been revised as
Yes.
of Tuesday.
Yes, as of Tuesday, and really, we're allowing one visitor with the patient, whether it's on acute care, whether that's acute swing bed, whatever that is, in acute care, outpatient services. So if you have someone that needs help, or you just want to accompany someone, you can do that in outpatient services, as well as in the ER. If we have a patient that's coming in and they need someone with them, we will allow that to happen. So
Very
really,
good.
now, that patient has to stay in the room or with the patient, or that visitor has to stay with the patient or in the room. If they leave for any reason, they're done for the day.
Mm-hmm.
So one for the day, and I do think at least being able to get someone in, and again, there's a lot of healing that happens.
Oh, yeah.
With just having people available, just seeing
Communicating,
people,
yeah,
just having those people available to you.
you can only
And
watch so much TV.
Yeah, yeah. So
Before you just start.
so we hope that, and again, that's due to this downturn in COVID cases and active cases and positivity rate and all of those things. If that stays that good or positive, I should say, then we will continue to do it. And we've kind of tentatively set 10% of the county, for the county positivity rate, as kind of a turning at this time, when that would turn and probably go back to no visitors.
Right.
So again, if we would see an uptick in those cases, we would probably shut that down and,
Right.
and go back to this. And again, but we're trying to do what we can when we can to make things better.
Right. But right now it's about, 2%?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's still about 2%.
Yes.
I think the last time I checked.
Yes.
All right. Now, one of the things you mentioned at the meeting with this new visitor policy, though, if somebody is in isolation, they're still in isolation.
Yes.
No visitors are allowed.
Thank you for reminding me of that. That needs to be said. If they are in isolation for whatever, doesn't necessarily just have to be COVID isolation, but
Right.
it is isolation for
Isolation
something.
for long-term care.
Yeah.
To have to stay in isolation.
Yes.
And
Now, again, long-term care is still on a shutdown.
Sure, right. I mean, Bo, we talked about isolation going into long-term care. If they had to
Yes.
do that, that's still isolation.
Yes.
Okay,
That
so
is true.
make it that way. And of course, masks are still required. So it doesn't mean you get to come in with that person, you don't wear a mask. You do need to have a mask, right?
Yes.
The visitor needs to have the
Yes.
mask.
You'll have to go through we're still having the screening.
Temperature, everything
We'll still
else.
have all of that. So,
Okay. Now, as we mentioned at the beginning of our broadcast, in March, we're looking at the board meetings for the med staff meetings and everything, getting back to having people there. So, again, that is also based upon the same positivity
Yes.
rate that Kasey talked about at 10%.
that is correct.
So, if it goes above 10 before the meeting, Zoom, baby.
Yes.
Yeah, no, not really. But, all right. Very good. Zoom. All right, so let's get back to a little bit more of the numbers. Now, we already talked a little bit about this. It was super successful out of the Commons with 1,800 people getting their first dose of the vaccine. That's fantastic. Back on February 5th, you guys gave out 200. Got about 180 in it the last time. We had some bad weather last time, so people couldn't really. Some people canceled.
Sure.
And they just couldn't make it. So on this day now, today, they're actually doing vaccines again at the Denton County Fire Station. They're not sold out. They're not.
Yes.
They're not committed out, guys.
Yes.
As we mentioned at the beginning of our program, Kasey did between 1 and 3 today. As long as you qualify from phase 1A, 1B, tiers 1 and 2, if you qualify, show up, get vaccinated. You don't have to make the appointment, but if you qualify. So if you couldn't get to them last week, maybe you had scheduled your appointment last week, you had to cancel it. You haven't remade an appointment yet. Show up.
Yep. Show up, or again, you can always call
Sure.
Denton County Health Center and schedule that.
Right.
It'll be, you could schedule it for today. You could, but again, 1 to 3, you can just walk in
Just
today.
walk in.
And
But they
get
schedule next Thursday.
again, based on what our inventory is at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because again, if we have 220, we've got 80 scheduled. You know, we will have plenty, but I can't say that we won't have a run. So.
Yep. So anyway, between 1 and 3 today, 80 was the last number you had. That
Yes.
doesn't mean we still
Yeah,
have it.
yeah.
So based upon that now, guys, so think about it. If between 1 and 3 and you qualify, head on down to Denton County Fire Station this afternoon. You can also call 729-3106 and set up an appointment. Or you can even set up an appointment for next Thursday. There's still some vaccines available for next Thursday. And again, there are 220 vaccines available for today.
Yes.
Let's get amused. Let's get
Yes.
amused. Do remember, there is a second vaccine that you have to take. It's a booster. That comes your way later, the booster. Now, there are some dates here, and let's just go over them really quickly because the hospital has to meander things around because we didn't get the Pfizer vaccine. They had to move the Commons Day to the 11th and 12th, so that moved one of the hospital vaccinations day up to the 10th.
Yes.
Kind of what they had to do the last time when they moved it to February 10th. And then the last one, March 19th, because there was a conflict, if I'm not mistaken. There was conflict there.
Yep.
Okay, so if you get your vaccine in February, you have to get another one in March. So check the dates when you're in there. And you do need to wait 28 days, or approximately 28 days.
Yes. And when you come in to get your vaccine, when you leave, you will know your date to come back. We give that, we make them very aware. This is the day you need to return.
All right, very good. So, good stuff.
Yes.
Get vaccinated. If you're uncomfortable, get vaccinated, please. All right, now. A little bit of the renovation, but virtually everything is done now, right? With the expansion and renovation, virtually as far as the construction part.
Yeah, construction, all construction. I mean, we're in the process of testing generators in, new generators.
You're tweaking things.
Yes,
now.
we're now tweaking. The last two things is water heater, okay, and water softeners. Right after we move the old generator, because that's what we got to wait for to move that old generator. We got to test the new one,
right?
And that's all going to take place next week,
right?
Once we do that, we got to get that water softeners in and water heaters in, and then we're done with everything.
How big of water heaters you guys getting? Got to be a big tank. There's got you got more than one, right?
Yeah. Well, we're going to. I think we one in there now. Yeah, and it's old.
Oh, I'll bet it is.
And again, it's lasted 50 years.
Yeah, but when they die fast.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do you got to have a new one.
Right. Yeah.
You know, they don't have parts for those.
No,
you can't. You know,
there's not a lot of parts of water heaters though.
Yeah.
That's the good news. The bad news is though, is after a while they do fill with calcium.
Sure.
And they lose their intensity, and depending upon the type it is, and when people think, well, it fills with calcium. It does. That takes your water capacity out too.
Yes.
You lose water. So if it's a 50-gallon tank and you've got 4 inches of calcium in the bottom of your tank, you just lost 4 gallons.
Yeah.
Does, and then it doesn't heat very fast because of the calcium. You heat the calcium up. It really loves it. I mean, takes that water out of the water. So the new generator will be tested next Tuesday and Thursday, the 23rd and 25th.
Yes.
Once that is done, water heaters, water softeners will all be moved where the old generator is, and that will be taken out. What are you going to do with it? You going to sell it?
Yeah, I don't think
Probably not.
Yeah, no.
What are you going to do with the old water heater? You going to sell it? You're going to have to empty it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope. No selling it.
Just
I think
getting
we'll
rid of
just
those
junk it.
things, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, server conversion. Tell us a little bit about these meetings these kickoff meetings with Paylocity and Microsoft Dynamics 365. I mean, does that sound like fun or what? Microsoft Dynamics 365. But Paylocity. So you've got a new payroll program.
Yes.
Here. Okay. Anybody who's ever done a payroll program, whether it be QuickBooks or Peachtree or anything else, knows one thing about any payroll program you have is data.
Mm-hmm.
and then more data,
Yeah.
and then even more data. I don't know how many different salary schedules there are at the hospital,
Oh,
but I
my
mean, with
God.
hourly employees and everything else, that is going to be a job.
Yes. Yes. And really, we're starting. I would say the intense part of our conversion from our current payroll system, which is in part of Evident or CPSI, which is our hospital EHR.
Sure.
That transition, I mean, it technically starts in April, but we're starting now to collect data and starting to have discussions on pay codes, pay types. You know, you do.
Classifications,
You
whatever
have
you
so
need,
many
yeah.
different classifications of employees, this or that or whatever, depending on shifts that they work and, you know, shift differentials and other things that go into all of those, the pay for everybody at the hospital that today we have been very limited because again the system we have, it's not a payroll system, it's an EHR.
Right,
It's an
right.
it's a health record system that's been, you know,
Adapted.
to
Yeah.
be your payroll too. Be
Yeah.
everything in one, and for the longest time it's worked. So I will say that it has worked. I believe that we're gonna get away from a lot of the manual calculations that we have to do today. So I think, you know, I look for, my expectations are very high with this Paylocity that we will get more than what we've ever had before.
This will be a lot of detailed data going into these, and as what Kasey's mentioning, I mean, I can see classifications, and then as you're mentioning, shift differential and things, all these things being built in automatically calculated as they go out. So there's going to have to be some testing, and obviously we know trial and error.
Yes.
Comparing this paycheck to the paycheck you currently have, and you know, just trying to do. I always used to do that. I always used to run the same thing, 2 different systems, just to see, did it come up the same, or did it come out a little bit different?
Yes.
With some rounding of sense,
Yes.
you'd be surprised.
And it's happening at really a good time because as we start our budget process, we'll be having meetings with every director, talking about budget, and at that time, we hope to use that time to also talk to each director individually about special pay codes. What, you know, for payroll,
Sure.
what goes into, you know, you may have someone that we consider on a weekend contract that all they work is Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, and so there are special circumstances with those individuals, and so many that you can't even name them all. But definitely things like that we need to consider. But we've had some turnover in our accounting department. Okay,
Right.
so we're working with new people to try and capture all of this, and it's not just the responsibility of the accounting department.
Right,
It's the directors of
directors,
every
sure,
department
sure.
that needs to be
Right.
taken into consideration, and all of their thoughts and of processing, because a lot of the processing is done by those directors.
Right.
And so when they start to think about everything manually they have to do, what could we take away from
Right.
them? What could we make part of this system?
So their input is super valuable
yeah.
right now in getting this done, and to streamline it as easy as possible, beginning obviously the next fiscal year. That's when the first paycheck actually will come out.
Yes.
Will be in July. That will be through the new system. All right, the Microsoft Dynamics 365. How's that going to help our hospital?
Okay, so that is the GL, or the general ledger, the accounting, where everything will, from our Cerner system, the revenue that's generated, the accounts receivable that's generated, the all of those things, where the inventory is kept, all within Cerner. Okay, and those things will all dump at the end of every month into our GL system that will again let us then correct things that need to be corrected in those GLs and really create our financial statements for us.
Okay, so very good. So that will automatically just take all those different inputs and then put together obviously a detailed report as you need it, or
Sure.
a collaborative report that will give the overall view of what the hospital is doing.
Yes. Yes.
Good. Very good.
Yes.
Okay. So you already had your kickoff meetings with the field groups. You've got all this laid out. Now it's just a matter of in 4 months getting it done.
Sure.
No problem.
Well, with the Paylocity, yes, that's the goal. And what will happen with I'll just say the Cerner side of things, the patient care, really everything but the GL side and the payroll side, everything that will go into that. We actually don't start that process until June. Okay. But there's pre-work that we have to do before we get to June to make sure, one, that when they're ready for us to start looking at things and building to put into our new system in Cerner, that our old system is cleaned up to the point that this is really what we need to focus on. And so I think that's really, to me, that's most of the work. And I may be wrong, but I think that's most of the work is to take and clean up what we've had for 26, 25 years.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell you how long that is. All right, very good. So that's going to be a very time-consuming effort
Yes.
by a lot of people. It's not going to be one or two people. It's going to be a lot of people involved in that. All right, very good. So by next fiscal year for the hospital, we should pretty well have made that conversion if everything goes well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, the
no
go live.
hiccups.
The go live with it is
Right. You
November,
said go live,
December.
phase payment in July. Go live.
Yeah, that's Paylocity.
Yeah.
So that will be.
But that's when the whole system will go
No,
live.
no.
You're
The
gonna
whole
get
Cerner will go live in December, November, December time.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, they've said the end of November. I'm saying it'll probably creep into December.
Okay, so just the go live, just the
the
Paylocity will go live, and then you're going to
Yeah.
have to still be working. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, very well.
Oh yeah, the start dates.
Come on.
Again, start date for prep for Paylocity is really technically April. Start date for prep for Cerner is in June, and then start date for prep for the Microsoft Dynamics 365
see.
is
Probably
I
August
think
or
it's September, October timeframe.
Yeah. Right when they're
Yeah.
doing the audit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
a good time to be doing that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's why it's out that far.
Okay.
Is because we will be doing all of those things up until
Right. And then you can make your changes, whatever you need.
Yep.
Very good.
Yep.
And then have the auditors make their comments too.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
while
is
they're there.
definitely
Very
what we're
good.
gonna.
Don't have to pay them twice. All right, very good. Conflict of interest policy. This says has to be within 30 days, and of course it always seems to fall with 29 or 28.
Sure.
So it goes over for another meeting, but that will be reviewed and approved at the next meeting. It really isn't any differences this year, is
No.
there?
Well, no.
Oh.
And we've had a question come up, and we're going to confirm everything, and we'll present it.
Okay.
We'll present it next time.
A lot of times it doesn't change very much, and if it is, it's a tweak.
No, and
No.
I hope I said this at the meeting that I mean, technically by law we have to adopt that every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We do it every year, so we're still in compliance because
Oh, yeah.
we did it just a year ago. So we really have until next February.
If I'm not mistaken, last year we made a small change, and it was just very small. It was just like I think a title.
Yes.
So that was it. But it's a change.
Yes.
And so you approved it, so you're good for 2 more years,
Yep.
really.
Yes.
So all right, very good. One purchase. We got ourselves
Yes.
a plow.
Yes,
Woo.
we did. We did.
Not that you needed it.
Yeah. We needed it sooner than we're going to get it, but we will have it
Yeah.
from here on out. So,
Very good.
Yeah.
From Midwest Systems Truck Equipment for $3,350. Needed a plow for that. You got a Kubota, right?
yep,
Okay.
for the Kubota.
It's a universal kind of plow. It can be used on anything. But
Yes.
we have a Kubota right
Yeah.
now, and it will work.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you did mention to the board that the inclement policy for the employees was in effect this past Monday.
Yes.
And you want to explain that to our listeners, if you would?
Yes.
Real quickly.
If we can proactively put it into place, it saves non-essential or non-patient care people from getting on the dangerous roads and getting to work. And again, they still have to make up the time with PDO or paid time off, whatever you want to call that. They still have to make it up. It's considered an excused absence and no problems. It just says, hey, now. Because we are a hospital and we have essential patient
Services,
care people,
absolutely.
You can't just miss and reschedule something. We got patients we got to take care of, and so for those,
I mean, you're like radio people, no
sure,
matter what.
Sure, no matter what, just like radio people, we have to make it happen.
Yeah, certain people have to be there.
Yeah, you have to be here, and so for those. We just want to make sure that, one, they're thinking about the weather and giving themselves enough time to get here. And if they can't, because you still have those times when you can't, if we can make those arrangements to get them and get them here, then we will do that. If we can make arrangements to have it covered by someone else, we will have it covered.
To do that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for our policy, I mean, our policy says, yes, it will be in place. If we can proactively put it in place, I knew weather was coming in over the weekend, and I knew it may hit us Sunday night. Last week we were looking into it and making sure everything was in line, and a call went out Sunday night to say, hey, it is in effect. We are going to put it in effect, and so those people who are non-essential know they don't have to. Well, actually, I think we put it out early morning, like 5 a.m. Yeah, I think we put it out at 5 a.m. So those people that, need to get there at 8, they don't have to get on the road and get here.
Or they're already on the road.
Well, that's true.
Sometimes it does happen
That's
that way.
true.
But what it does is if some people just, they really fear driving in snow and ice. Or they're in a position where they live in the back 40 and they can't even get out.
Yeah.
So it does give those employees an opportunity to not try and have to dig their way all the way to the hospital, and then as soon as they get there, they're going to be paranoid. They're not going to be worth a darn. You're going to get there. So, very good. Closed session. Any votes taken? Anything?
No, sir.
Nothing, sir. Okay,
No,
very good.
sir.
All right, and that's been Hospital Administrator Kasey Lucas. Do want to remind everybody again, we talked about it before, we talked about it in the middle, we're going to talk about it again one more time in case you're just joining us. The hospital is down at the Denton County Fire Station, and they are doing vaccinations today, and you'll be there till 4?
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Between 1 and 3 today. It's between 1 and 3. If you qualify for Phase 1A and Phase 1B, Tiers 1 and 2, that's a lot of people, healthcare workers, also your residential care workers, if you're over 65, if you're immuno
Yes.
challenged, and you're 18 to 64, you can go and get your vaccine without an appointment between 1 and 3 today. So if you want to, you can call a health center and maybe make sure you qualify if you fall in that group. But if you don't, still please don't go get the vaccine. If you don't qualify, they're going to, you just don't, you don't qualify yet. Now, I do know there's some talk about trying to qualify teachers. That is not in Missouri. That is not in the Phase 1A and 1B, Tiers 1 and 2. They're in Tier 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And so there is talk about trying to escalate them up a little bit, or maybe give them a waiver and let them get in. So don't know about that yet. That's still talked about. But
Yes.
Once we learn a little bit more, we'll pass that on to you.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yes.
All right. Anything else new?
No, I'm good.
Staying warm?
I'm trying.
Yeah.
We're trying.
A lot warmer today than it was
Yes.
Tuesday.
Yes.
That's for doggone sure. And Monday. But, I want to thank Kasey for coming in and spending some time with us. Again, if you have any questions about those vaccines, again, you can call the Denton County Health Center. If you do want to make an appointment for the 25th, you can by calling the health center. And, again, those vaccinations are at the firehouse, number 2 South Main Street. It's right there at the beginning or end of the S curve, depending upon if you're going from the south to the north or north to the south. But just
Yes.
can't miss them.
Yes.
The old Becker Motors, Dent County Motors location, and they've done a beautiful job of renovating. So check that out, and you can get that vaccination. So again, today, 1 to 3. If you would like to get vaccinated and you qualify, feel free just to stop on in to the Dent County Fire Station and get that vaccine. Okay, get that vaccination done. Round 1. You got the booster still to do, but round 1. Very good.
Yeah.
Again, I want to thank everybody out there for joining us. Thank you, sir, for coming in,
you.
spending some time with us.
Appreciate
Here on this Thursday morning, we've got civic happenings coming up very soon right here at KSMO Radio, your hometown radio station. And Jim will be doing a lot of that good work for you in just a moment, giving you some weather. I'm going to give you the civic record next when we return here in just a moment.